Hello, this is the string guy here. It's been a while since I've done a video. That's mostly due to the fact that I moved recently, and took me a while getting set up and everything, and so now I'm still going to be playing around with how to record my new settings and everything. But I have set a goal to start doing videos more regularly. Both I'm going to be doing reviews. I'm going to be doing a few songs. Today, I want to review a guitar that I've had for about a year now, and that's my Squier Telecaster Bullet. Actually, I've had it a little over a year. This one is actually a 2020 model, but I checked. On this model, nothing has changed since that time. Now, a few things have changed. I'll change some of my comments on some of the other models. One of the things I want to say, some people might say, did I mention it's a Bullet Telecaster, the Bullet series of the Squiers. And some people might say, Bullet's the bottom line in the Squiers. Why would anybody be interested in it? They're probably pieces of junk. Well, guess what? That nothing can be further from the truth. And here's the thing. Most companies, their entry model or beginner model, because it's typically going to be a beginner model or for people who are just getting into guitar and not sure if they want to spend a lot of money, that will usually go for the lowest price one, because let's face it, if you buy it for a kid, it's probably a 50-50 chance that they're not even going to play past 2 or 3 lessons or 10 lessons. They'll quit soon. So a lot of parents don't want to spend a lot of money, or even adults. They're not sure how much they're going to get into it. And they're not sure if they can learn. So they don't want to put a fortune into it. So it's very important to companies like Squier or Fender, their parent company, that introductory model needs to be pretty good. I'll put it this way, it needs to have a good experience with the user. Because if they have a bad experience with that, do you think they're going to say, well, maybe if I spend a little more money and bought a fancier Squier or a Fender, maybe I'll have a better experience? No, they're probably just going to say, nope, bad experience, move on. And now they become a customer of a competitor. So, my guess is there's going to, I can say a couple things from an engineering standpoint, how they're saving a little money and not dramatically reducing the quality of the product, that a beginner would have a good experience with it. Plus, partly I suspect that they're not so worried about making the profit margin on these. If they do a little better than break even, they're probably happy, because this is to get the people to get their foot in the door, have a good experience with the Squier, then maybe later get a better one. But let me get to some of the things that they did save a little money on. This body here, it's a poplar body. Poplar is one of the cheapest woods you can get. It's not a terrible wood. Now, you would never make an acoustic guitar out of poplar. It's just not a good tone wood. But an electric guitar, I've seen many an article, many a YouTube where they experimented back and forth. The tone wood has, I'm not saying it has no effect. It's much more minimal on a solid body guitar. It has an effect, but not that terrible. And so right there's a compromise, because right there they save some money. Not only did they save some money on the wood, the cost, the variety of wood, the cost, they saved it on thickness. The thickness of this body is an eighth of an inch thinner than it is on a standard Telecaster. Now, that actually, I'll give you the pros and cons of it. The pros of it are that helps keep it a little lighter and just makes it a little thinner, especially if you have a big belly like mine, to keep it a little closer to your body. Now, the bad side, there is a negative side to that thinner body, is if you would go to replace your pots, you might have to be more careful which pot you pick, because some of the pots might be too deep and the hole that's in there isn't deep enough, and I don't know if you would dare route any more out without, poking through the back. So if you want to change your pots out, if you're going to use this as a mod guitar, you have to keep that in mind. You have to be very careful which pots you would put it. So there they saved a little money by making it a little thinner. Less wood you use, it's less costly. So that's one area where they save a little money. The fingerboard, yeah, it looks similar to rosewood, but it's Indian laurel, much cheaper version of wood. Now they did still give you a real maple neck and a skunk stripe in the back, so it's still real maple, and it's a C shape, and it's a shape I really like. It's a satin finish, and it's really nice. It plays fast. I like that about it. The tuners don't seem to be bad. Mine holds tune real. I never really paid attention to what it said on the tuners. Oh no, I was looking wrong. I saw some scratches. Nope, it doesn't say anything on the tuners. They're an unbranded tuner, so you're not getting Fender tuners. So you're saving some money there. This model's made in Indonesia. Now I want to mention, at the time when I bought this guitar, they had the Affinity model, which at that time the Affinity model was only like $30 or $40 more. I think it was only 30 more. But even if this one would have been 30 more and the Affinity 30 cheaper, I would have bought this one over the Affinity, and I will give you the reason why. I'm sorry, my mic fell off. Okay, the reason why I bought this one over the Affinity is, in fact, now the Affinity is $60 more than this guitar. And that gets to my one point that existed at the time, why I think it's now 60 more instead of the 30 or 40 more it was at the time. But the number one reason why I bought this over the Affinity was the nut width. This comes with a 42 millimeter nut. The Affinity comes with a 40 millimeter nut. And right about the time I bought this, I bought a used Stratocaster, and it was a Squier, and the particular model I bought had a 40 millimeter nut, and it was just extreme. I could play it, but I had to really be conscious of getting my strings, and if I didn't concentrate, boy, I got clunkers in there because I was hitting other strings. You wouldn't think 2 millimeter would be as much. It's not, but it was just enough that I just could not enjoy playing it. I had to work to play it because I had to watch and be very careful, and which just threw me all off. And because most guitars, now if you're a child or a lady somebody with thinner fingers or a man with thin fingers, then that probably wouldn't be a problem. I'm not going to have fat fingers, but they're thick enough that it was just a problem. With Affinity had a 40 millimeter nut. So that right there, even if the Affinity would have been cheaper, I would have still gone with this. The second reason at that time, now this has changed, in fact, I noticed Fender mentions it on their website. At the time when the Affinity was what I call a top loader. This Telecaster is true to how most Fenders are. The string through, you bring the string through the back. It's string through body. The Affinity at that time was what they call a front loader. The strings just came up straight through here, up through the bridge plate, and I didn't like that for two reasons. One, from a technical standpoint, that meant all the load when you're tightening your strings, all that tension's just on the screws. See the strings are coming up through and putting down there, putting pressure on there. I would bet, this thing wouldn't move much if you took the screws out because that string coming down through the saddles is holding. I mean, many other guitar companies are not string through body, and that doesn't affect it. But my biggest concern was that you're getting some vibration in that body through those strings coming through. And I worry with a top loader you won't get that true Fender sound. Now, they did make some in the back in the original 50s. Fender did do some that were top loaders, but most of them were string through. And I think that's the reason why the price now, the Affinity, went up more compared to the Bullet, is because the new Affinities now, this year Fender went to string through body, and it mentions in the spec. Before it wasn't string through body, but string-through body takes more work. You got to drill these holes. You got to line up. More chances to make mistakes. You got to put ferrules in the back. So it doesn't add significantly, but it does add to manufacturing costs. So the Affinity had to go up even more to get the string through. But at the time when I bought it, that was a deal breaker for me. So because I wanted to get as close to classic Fender sound, and I just wanted a string through body, because in my mind it wasn't what I wanted. I wanted one with a string through body. That's just the bottom line. I wanted string through body construction, and I did not have it, and it had the narrower nut. So for me, the Affinity was a no-go. In fact, I looked at some used Affinities that were going for real good price and great shape, and I passed them up because of the narrow nut. The third thing, and that's not a big deal, but the Affinities are made in China and these are made in Indonesia. I'm not saying that you can't get good guitars made in China. It's just I know a lot of really good guitars are coming out of Indonesia. They got a very good guitar industry there making good guitars. So having said that, it's not a bad guitar for the money. It's a lot of value for the money. Yes, you're getting a poplar body. You're not getting basswood or alder, some of the more exotic woods. Now, at the time, I bought mine straight off the Fender website when I bought mine. I figured, well, if I bought somewhere else, it was shipped around more. And the Fender website was the same price as everybody else. So I just bought it straight from Fender. It came in a box. It did not come with a gig bag. It just came the guitar. That's all you got. No strap. You did get strap buttons on it, but there was no strap included. I had to buy a strap extra. Now, the one thing I did do with this, I played it for a little bit. It comes with nines on it. And that 9, I had a problem. And you may not have it, but I had a problem when I was playing like a G chord. Sometimes I was pulling the string down over the edge and getting a weird sound. And that just made due to poor playing technique. I didn't like the 9. So, and I thought, I got it good. These were low enough price. Mine was like $179. I thought, I'm going to spend the money. I'm going to go to my local guitar shop, have them set it up. I want to get it intonated, and I'm going to have them swap out the 9s for 10s. So I took it there. He put Diodaros on it, and I wasn't sure if the nut would need maybe. And that was the other reason I just didn't do it myself, because I wasn't sure if the nut, it's only 1,000th, but I was worried about the string slot. And I didn't trust myself, if that slot needed adjust or anything. So I asked him to do a complete setup on it. So he adjusted. He said he had to adjust, the intonation a little bit. I think 1 or 2 frets he had to do just a little bit of work on to get them leveled. And but when I got it, the fret ends were smooth. You could go up and down like this. You weren't going to cut your finger. So that Fender did a good job right off the bat. And the setup wasn't terrible, but I had him lower the action just a fraction, a little bit, because I like a lower action, just enough that it wouldn't buzz. And he did a great job. He charged me, including the string change, $70. The strings he used were like $15 set of strings, maybe $20 strings. So basically it was $50. And he dressed the nut up, cleaned the slots out, went over it. And it definitely did. Now, part of it was due to new strings, but it definitely played better than when I got it. It didn't play terrible when I got it. I want to make sure I'm clear of that. It didn't play terrible, but I wanted this to be the best that this guitar could be. So that's the reason why I had it set up. So, and I'm not going to tell you that all this plays as good as any Fender Telecaster. I'm not a fool. I wouldn't say that. I'm saying it's the best. This thing is sounding as good as a Fender or as a Squier Bullet's going to sound. You got the nice strings on it. I put 10s on it, and the Diodaros are the sets on it is very popular with the Fender crowd, with the Telecaster crowd. I'll put it that way. And so it's a nice guitar. Now, as far as any other things, the 3-way switch, it seems to be good. It's not mushy or anything. Does a good job of selecting it. When I looked at the stamping, because it's obviously a stamped bridge plate, but very, very clean. No, I didn't find any sharp images or edges on it. Found no flaws. Now, when I bought this, at the time, Now, I'm saying they didn't have other colors, but at the time, the only available color they had was this tobacco burst, which is okay for me. Because for me, there's only 3 colors for a Telecaster. I mean, other people might want other colors, but I only like 3 colors in a Telecaster. Either the tobacco burst, butterscotch yellow, or surf green. If I ever buy another Telecaster, I would probably buy one of those other colors just to have one in a different color. But for me, in a Telecaster, that's the 3 colors. You know, so for me, that was a no-brainer. Tobacco burst. If I might have passed or gone to Sweetwater or somebody else to buy it if they. But at the time, that's all the Fender had in stock was tobacco burst, which was fine. Now, I would have had a lot of painstaking decisions, but I don't think they offered the bullet that even in normal times. I don't think they were offering it in butterscotch yellow. I know the Affinity was, but those are my 3 favorite Fender colors, especially for Telecasters, are this and the butterscotch yellow and surf green. So, anyways, let me play a little for you so you can hear the tone. I'm getting long-winded, I know. I apologize. That's one of my big things. Okay, I've had it on standby. Okay, I can turn it on. I'm going to play this through my Crate V18 tube amp. It's basically a Blues Junior clone. It uses the same tubes as the Blues Junior. I picked it up used, got a very good deal on it, and I'm still learning it. One of the noises I put this in, find that spot, edit that out. I'll have a bridge pickup. Neck. In the middle. Now, any lack sound, ignore my playing. I get nervous when I'm playing and I'm recording it. I do play a little better than that when I'm by myself. But anyways, I wanted to give you a little sample of this tone And I'll be honest with you, even if I had a Fender player, any of the, or Performer, any of those fancy models, I doubt my tone would be any better. If you're like me and you're just a hobby guitar player and just playing for friends and family in the church and some nursing homes, this will do you just fine. I mean, I'm really not jonesing for a fancier Fender. I mean, don't get me wrong, if I ever run into one at a really good deal, I'll probably buy one just to say I have a Fender. But do I think it's going to improve my tone? Probably not. It just more just to satisfy. If it did, it'd probably just be the psychological factor. Oh, well, we got a Fender now. Maybe I'll, work at it a little more or something like that. Maybe just give me a little more confidence in my playing. But so, anyways, I just want to wrap up here. The Fender Bullet. Don't overlook the Bullet series. Very good value for the money. If you're a beginner or you're not sure where your guitar journey is going to take you, I would highly recommend getting a Bullet. It'll service you for a long time, and really, if you get to the point where this isn't enough guitar for you, you've really improved in ability. So I would recommend anybody going for this guitar. And thank you very much. It's the String Guy. Be safe out there. Have a great day. Thank you for listening.